We're very lucky to have Martin present this today from D&G. This is a topic of, what's new in our industry that's coming out. I mean, we've gone leaps and bounds over the last 40 years, 20 years, and even the last 5. So Martin was willing to take this topic on and present it to us, and Martin did a lovely presentation on ROs to us in January. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Martin, who's the business development person for D&G in North America. He's got a wealth of experience in the industry, and he's willing to share that. So I think we're quite lucky. So Martin, if you can take over, and the floor is yours.
Well, good. Well, thank you, Brian, and welcome to our presentation. So today, I've been asked to discuss on some of the economics regarding the use of innovations and technology in the maple sugaring industry. So innovation and technical ingenuity are part of humankind. Whether we are referring to ancient innovations to read time and understand how we move in our solar systems, to tools to build, to destruct, or to use with natural resources to generate power, we have always been innovating to increase our capabilities. So humankind's progress has increased our capacity and capability to innovate. Today, technology helps us to do more and more. Microchips have allowed us to accelerate innovations and make things smart. We now live in a world of smart technology and the Internet of Things. At work, through all the communications and robotics we encounter, in our homes, making them more secure and energy efficient, in the smartphones we carry around everywhere, which helps us find answers quickly, making our cars safer and more efficient, helping us learn faster in school while increasing our level of understanding, and many other fields like medical, aeronautics, and of course our own maple industry. In the maple industry, this evolution came using instruments like barometers, thermometers, hydrometers, refractometers, which allowed us to read the state of the product we are making. We're far away from taking, a scoop or a large spoon and checking out. Although we still do it, there are tools that are more precise to make sure the syrup is ready. With the digitalization of these instruments, the automation of certain operations like drawing off syrup with an automatic draw-off valves were created. The use of reverse osmosis contributed to cutting down by 50 to 95% the sap needed to boil to make a gallon of syrup. Evaporators benefited from constant technology advancements to optimize their performances. We also saw many innovative systems to harvest the maximum amount of sap with the modern vacuum pump technology and tubings and fittings, of course. To optimize these systems, the use of monitoring devices are now part of many sugar makers. Modern sugar makers are now turning towards other technology to boil their sap, such as the electric EcoVap, and the use of electronic bricks reading instruments to control production. They are also more conscious about the wastewater they throw back into the environment. The use of many industry innovation with modern technology has brought us to an era of smart sugaring. In the maple industry, innovations and technology have worked together to optimize production at the lowest cost possible. Here are some examples. The trees and the forest are taken care with specialized forest equipment and drones monitoring and vaporizing tree canopies to control insects. Research and the evolution of vacuum tubing systems, fittings, pumps, extractors have helped maximize yield and often doubling sap harvest. Processing all this sap in a timely manner will require you to remove pure water through reverse osmosis and boiling efficiently. The evolution of instruments allow us to measure temperature, Briggs degrees, pH levels, syrup color, and monitor tank levels, vacuum performance, and other variables necessary for making a consistent product. Filtering and packing your syrup will complete the process with a whole world of equipment to save producers time. So forest knowledge is the largest part of managing a healthy sugar bush. There have been many researches on the topic, and the Internet of Things allows us to learn very easily through blogs and university sites. The use of instruments have always allowed us to read soil quality, analyze bark, and some leaves. Now the drones give us a bird's eye view to monitor and spray canopies at a much lower cost than airplanes or helicopters. Modern logging and forestry equipment help us keep a healthy maple bush to optimize growth and yield. So using a combination of technology and the good old gardening of your maple forest will maximize your yield for generations. So when Mother Nature decides to start a sap run, you need to be ready to collect the most amount of what she has to offer and process it quickly as possible. Whether you use buckets or tubing to collect your sap, speed is the key to making a quality product. This is why today, tubing systems are used in most operation of 1,000 taps plus. With today's technology, we optimize the positioning of main lines with GPS readings on our phones. The temperature instruments trigger the start of vacuum pumps when they're ready to go. Other instruments monitor vacuum performance in the system by reading the vacuum levels at the end of the main lines. So this allows the operators to get to the leaks quickly and not waste any time on the lines that are running well. Leak-tight vacuum systems allow for tubing systems to have a longer life as the development of bacteria are reduced due to the absence of outside air. Tank level sensors and remote pumping station pump the sap to the main sugar house. We have even been asked to install automatic door opening mechanisms to properly ventilate the pumps, the pump houses, to cool them down when the pumps are running. So in order to help budget the correct amounts for your operation, some manufacturers use homemade software to help us give you prices quickly and accurately for multiple alternatives. So these tools help us give you a complete list of all the items you'll need, from pump sizes to all the fittings and tubing you will require for your project. For 1,000 taps, investing in vacuum system will cost between $13 to $30 per tap, fully installed, including gathering tanks and vacuum pumps. The cost associated with tubing installation will vary from region to region to the landscape and how long the tubing lines need to be. Harvesting sap with a vacuum system will pay itself in a few years when installed and maintained correctly. Today, the high quality plastic materials that we use to extrude our tubing can easily last you 15 to 25 years, so your investment will pay off more and more over time. We encourage you to make up your own budget scenarios and include the price of your land, building, electrical lines, etc., to get your own picture. We all know how addictive it is to make maple syrup, but don't be fooled by the simplicity of this product. Making syrup does not come cheap, so it's important to calculate properly. When you increase the number of taps, you will increase your revenue with approximately the same amount of investment. And with time, it will increase profitability. So there's a lot of information out there to build a solid business case. Once we've harvested the sap, we need to process it. So one of the biggest process evolution in the maple sugaring has to be, in my opinion, the use of reverse osmosis to remove water from the sap, therefore creating a concentrated sap to boil. From small producers to large-scale operations, the use of RO has become a common piece of equipment. It allows to boil with smaller evaporators, which cost less to purchase, And it also reduces the cost to operate by reducing the necessary fuel to heat and the time spent boiling. This table shows the bricks degree you can attain by removing some of the water. Also, you will notice in the right-hand column the gallons of concentrated sap you need to make a gallon of syrup. Bringing your sap from 2 to 8 bricks will reduce your boiling time by 75%. Today, technology and digital instruments have allowed us to use automation to create smart RO models. These machines run all by themselves and require no supervision to perform any operating cycle. Our Platinum automated version will perform regular pure water permeability tests on the membrane and will decide, based on your setting you will program, what cycle to perform, which will maintain membrane performance. When used and cleaned correctly, a membrane can easily last you 10 years, but unfortunately, due to the lack of knowledge on the proper use of ROs, people are often required to change sooner. If automation is not up your alley, here are a few instruments that are not usually part of the standard models you absolutely need to properly operate your RO. So a conductivity meter to make sure your pure water has no sugar and is not losing any minerals. pH level meters to measure your washing solution and maintain the correct pH level to optimize your wash. Amperage meters to measure pump performances and do some troubleshooting. Thermometers, if they're not included on your machine, will help you monitor, the water and be able to calculate and adjust properly to the different temperatures. So make sure, even if you use a standard model, that you do not clog your membranes by concentrating too high for too long. Stay within the capabilities of your machines. Many producers out there try to do too much with the machines they have and that don't have the horsepower to do it. This often adds unnecessarily costs to their operation, as they will need to change membranes prematurely. D&G's latest innovation in RO operation is the use of a pH reading instrument that controls small dosing pumps. These pumps inject products to increase or decrease the pH level to make sure your RO wastewater is at a neutral pH before flushing back to the environment. Once the sap has been processed through the RO, we need to boil it. So through the use of instruments, we now manufacture high-performance wood evaporators that can include smart technology. We all understand the benefits that an airtight arch can give you more BTUs per quart of wood. Now with the use of digital thermometers and monitorized air control mechanism, we let the operator know when to load the wood based on the temperature he wishes to boil at. So you always have consistent temperature inside your arch. Through CAD drawing tools, we design evaporators to optimize performance. The evolution in technology and understanding of the combustion chambers have helped optimize oil evaporator performances. These machines allow you to better control heat with less oil. The electric evaporator has become maple sugaring's low greenhouse emission boiler. It fully runs on electricity and generates its heat with its own steam, which is compressed through heat exchanger tubes. It has the lowest operational cost per gallon because it's fully automated, but requires a larger capital investment. For several years now, the automatic draw-off valves have been getting more affordable. If you spend more than 30 hours per season beside your draw-off valve, the use of this product will help you save time, give you consistent syrup, and quickly give you a return on your investment. Again, the use of modern technology has enabled us to add precision to making maple syrup. The bricks equalizer balances your bricks by injecting permeate water when needed. Syrup is mixed by a specially designed impeller that creates an homogeneous syrup. So combined with our draw-off valve 4.0, The valve can be controlled by the Brix level in the tank, allowing continuous syrup to come off the evaporator. The use of modern instruments will allow you to do more with less. Don't let your evaporator be a ball and chain. There is so much other stuff that can be done using smart technology. So back to some figures. When budgeting for the processing of your syrup, the new economics of maple always includes a combination of a high-performance water removal system and the boiling capacity from a properly sized evaporator. Let's come back to our 1,000 tap example. The day Mother Nature yields 1,000 gallons of sap, this is information you should consider for cost and processing time. In this case, processing 250 gallons of concentrated sap would require an investment of around $26,000 for a RO evaporator combination, which gives us $26 per tap and can be amortized for 10 years plus. These machines are built to be used for generations. So by using the proper combination, you can lower your production costs, decrease your need for wood or oil, and your time. For our 3,000 tap examples, processing 750 gallons would cost around $34,000 for the combination, about $11 per tap, just a little bit more than that. The overall investment in an RO evaporator combination will always optimize your return on investment, whether you are small or big. Here's a quick summary of some of the costs we just looked at. You have your revenues and some of the cost I shared with you. Tubing systems, RO evaporator combination, and I added other tanks, filtering, and other miscellaneous costs that you'll encounter. By leveraging the maximum number of taps, you lower your capital investment per tap. So when considering the economics of your operation, try and harvest as many taps as possible to lower your cost per tap. We always joke around and say that under 1,000 taps, your beer budget may be larger than your profits. Maple sugaring is a long-term commitment. If you want it to be profitable, you will need to be patient and grow the amount of taps you harvest to attain profitability. Maple sugaring does not come cheap. Make sure you crunch some numbers to create a plan and that you commit for a long time if you want to make a profit. I invite you to click on our QR code inside of our catalog to visit our Maple Sugaring 4.0 brochure, which features pictures and explanation of a fully automated sugaring operation. So what's new for this season? Well, for wood evaporators with blowers, we offer an automation package that modulates the airflow to attain consistent temperature underneath the pans. New tools allow us to manufacture our own in-house stainless steel Y strainers for ROs. It's available in 2 inches and 4 inches. Our automated RO are available with the RAM or Platinum software versions on 3 models. The Prestige Plus, and the Mountain. We also have a new square 50-gallon syrup tank that's isolated. It also is available with our specially designed mixing impeller and heating elements. Combined with the Brix equalizer system, our new automatic draw-off valve 4.0, which is controlled by the Brix level in your mixing tank, will allow you to save a lot of time and make more syrup at the correct Brix level. Therefore, if you're making more syrup, you're adding revenues. So when it comes for you to consider automation, let us and technology earn the right to help you optimize your sugaring operation. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Martin. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat. John, if you can see if there is. If you have any questions for Martin, please raise your hand or send it via chat. Um,
Yeah,
Martin, there's a lot of excellent stuff in there, especially the economics. I mean, we start to see, 1,000 tap operation 50 years ago was considered quite large. We consider that somewhere between a hobby and a a commercial producer. But I mean, where are you seeing most people that are coming in sizes in your?
You're asking me what size operation we're seeing people come in right now?
Yeah, like what I'm seeing is, like we're seeing a lot of 500 tap things, but we're also seeing it was never heard that we'd see a 10,000 tap operation just start up, and now we're seeing way more of that. And you see more of it than I do.
Well, obviously Quebec has a particular market condition for large operations like that. But as you know, Brian, I cover more of outside of Quebec and the United States, and you are correct. The people start with smaller operations, and what we've been seeing, and it's been even more obvious in the past 2 years, year and a half, with the pandemic going on, is we're seeing a lot of what we call driveway maple operations, where basically people will be tapping their 20, 30 taps, 40 taps, 50 taps, and make maple syrup. And those people are, several of them are future producers of 500, 700, 1,000 tap, because, as you all know, maple sugaring is addictive. And people that start with 50, 75, 100 taps, if they have the land, if they have the trees, they will keep, tapping. So it's important to cater to those small people, educate them properly, and not make them dream that tapping 100 taps will earn them, a lot of extra money. It's not the case. So we're seeing a lot of smaller ones, and a lot of people that are coming in mid sizes, 500, 700, 1,200 tap operation. I often get requests, especially from Ontario and some of our dealers, that, the people are looking to tap 800 to 1,000 tap, but they have the capability of going to 25, 3,000, 3,500 taps on their own property. So, they start off with, some equipment. And one thing that I want to mention, as far as the economic of things, especially for the people that are starting, and even the people that have current operations, there's a really good market of used equipment out there, from all the manufacturers. And you could tell that it's a very, how could I say, looked at market, because there's a lot of turnover on the equipment, because the equipment lasts for so long. You could find good quality equipment out there at a good price to start off your operation.
It's Randall Goodfellow. I have a question. Are there any conversion kits for a regular arch to an airtight arch, or do you just have to start fresh?
Yeah, over the years, in the past years, we did have a kit, and we realized that it requires too much customization to remove the whole front of a wood evaporator and try to custom fit, the sealed off air chamber. Our airtight evaporators actually have a concrete front with tubes that blow air from all the sides to make sure. So no, we don't have a conversion kit anymore to transform the wood version into the airtight model.
Thank you.
I'll add to that a little bit, Randall. I mean, Martin did a good job on that, in the sense that it was becoming way too expensive to customize an old arch. You were better to sell your arch and go to something new. It's just the economics of it don't pay off anymore. You can't jerry rig where putting a dryer motor on the back just to get it. It didn't give you the efficiencies that are required or that are available to you.
Martin, there's a question in the chat from me. that I put up there. I'm just wondering, I was looking at that chart as you were talking with the, percent bricks. We were looking at 1,000 tap operation, a 3,000 tap operation, but you were looking at, zero ROing, running at 8%, running at 20%. Would it be safe to say that the higher the bricks you run, the lower your cost of processing sap?
That's an excellent question, John. And somewhere, there's a fine line before before going overboard. So
Yeah.
Obviously, removing pure water from 2 to 8 bricks is a very well-known process, and a lot of the manufacturers do control it to be able to optimize the performance of the machines. And I could easily say that today's RO, when they're well sized, with the proper motors and everything, you will get to your 15, 20 bricks, no problem. But after that, if you look at this chart, once you've removed 90% of the water, it takes a lot of work to, bring it up to 92% water removal and to bring it up to 93% water removal so that you have a higher bricks level. And those higher bricks machines require a lot more detailed operation as far as having discipline and cleaning them and reading your instruments properly so that you don't foul up, don't you clog up your membranes. Because when you're concentrating and trying to remove water from sap that's already at 22, 23 degrees bricks, it requires more osmotic pressure. So it requires larger pumps to be able to attain higher pressures. And because you're hitting all those higher performance variables, well, the price of the machines are more expensive. So somewhere, yes, it will require smaller boiling apparatuses to boil concentrate that's at 4, 3, 2 bricks, right? But the machines to run them, to do the ROing, are much more expensive, to buy and also to run and maintain.
So is that sweet spot more around that 20%?
Well, for many of the like I would say commercial, industrial, they basically do hover around 20 to 25% as far as their bricks. But, you also find a lot of them that maintain that 15, and they just, synchronize everything with the evaporators, because obviously if you already have an evaporator and you're about to invest in an RO, well, you want the RO to be able to supply your evaporator and have it boiling. If you have to wait for 3 sap runs to be able to do a little bit of concentration and boil with the large evaporator you have, then you've got to take different, things in consideration to synchronize all of that.
Yeah.
So somebody that's starting new is able to combine, the large enough RO that will give him that 15, 20, 22, 25 bricks, and, combine it with the proper size evaporator.
Makes sense. Yeah. And can you explain, I'm not sure, like I didn't catch on the first pass yesterday when I listened to when we did a run through, but can you just explain how that new version 4 of draw off works, where you're actually monitoring the draw off tank instead of the temperature in the pan, or does it monitor in the pan at all as well?
No, so this draw off 4.0, we call it. So we still have the the regular draw offs, which over the years, the technology, and I think I'm speaking for all manufacturers, the technology of the modulating motor has just evolved and, allows now the draw off to modulate much faster than the old versions, which used to take a very long time to open and close and react. So the new draw-off valves are reacting very quickly to temperature that's inside the syrup pan. So our 4.0 version actually is to be used with a combination of our bricks equalizer. So while the syrup is being equalized or balanced to the desired bricks level in a large tank, I could put it here. So when it's being, mixed in a larger tank, Well, the readings, the brick readings are being taken there and are sent to the actual, there. So I've got my arrow on the screen there. So that it's balanced in the tank and the equalizing tanks. And basically it controls the draw off tank through the bricks. So if the bricks is high in here, it will basically read high on the draw off valve. So we have found by using this that after 10 minutes of synchronization and continuous running, that eventually the syrup that's coming out of the draw off valve is coming out at the exact bricks level that's in our mixing tank, which we find after the filter press, So it's a new draw off tank that we've basically gotten a patent pending on that, for the talk between both bricks and the draw off valve. I don't know if that answers it or if I've confused people more on it. So
I think so. I think that's, yeah, it's like instead of reading out of the pan, you're really reading out of your draw off tank essentially. And if it's,
correct.
if it's too thick in your equalizer, then you're pulling it off the pan thin, right, to make up for it. So
It's correct.
Yeah. So there, there's a question about the equalizer. Does the brick equalizer keep the syrup heated to 180 and 190 degrees Fahrenheit? If so,
The isolated tanks with the test, so obviously when you're drawing off, you're going to be losing, 5, 7, 8, 10 degrees. And by the time you pass it through the filter press, you lose a few more degrees. But inside of our tank, we have found that you're able to keep 170 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I think 180 is the bottling temperature. And so it is well isolated to be able to keep the heat inside. It's got lids on it, and it does maintain some good heat before you put it in your drums, or if you're bottling directly out of these large tanks.
So, and you're filtering it first before it goes in there, right?
Correct. We're filtering right after it's drawn off. It just goes into a syrup draw-off tank beside the evaporator. And once basically the level is just high enough, the filter press, and that's another thing in automation, the filter press is triggered by a level sensor inside, the syrup draw-off container. So when there's enough syrup that's in that container, the filter press will turn on automatically and filter the syrup into our equalizing tank or into your bulk syrup tank that's ready to be bottled or drummed.
So here's the rub. Someone has asked about what price is one of those units.
Well, the 50, they are expensive, and the bricks equalizer alone, without the tanks and everything, with all the software in there, is close to about $14,000. So when you basically, add the tank to it, you're talking about a $20,000 investment to be able to equalize your syrup in a way that's really stable and that you're not basically hooked on the evaporator for ages. That's the biggest comment we get from these equalizers, is that sugar makers that have been making good quantity sugars, a good quantity syrup for many years, have said that it's been it's like freedom, a freedom that they've never thought they'd attain. So they're not always beside the draw-off valves and checking the bricks through hydrometers or refractometers, and they just let the systems go, and they're able to do some other stuff. Yeah. So it is a fairly expensive investment to get in, and you do have to have I'd say probably at least 5,000 taps to be able to.
Can you use the 4.0 without that stuff, or you really need to have all that stuff with it?
Well, because the 4.0 actually runs from a brick equalizer. But the 4.0, you're capable of running it like the old draw off, based on 7 degrees above the boiling point, and it'll run like that if you want. But it also has the software. So if you're not going to use it with the actual bricks equalizer, because that's the bricks equalizer is where the instruments, the brick instrument is, it's not in the actual syrup valve.
Yeah. We have another question that kind of relates to all this as well from Terry. When it comes to pan cleaning on arch, I'm hearing sprinklers are not the way to go anymore. I'm hearing more and more are flooding the entire pan and recirculating and not using sprinklers. Any thoughts on this?
Well, those are my thoughts. And, basically like a cook in a kitchen, everybody's got their own recipe and their own method to do things. So I'm not going to say that my method or what I've been taught or what I see and witness in different places is, oh, absolutely do this. But, what we found over the years is that, the automatic washer for flue pans is probably more valuable than the automatic washer for flat pans. And when I say the automatic washers, those are the units that basically stay in place. So in the flue pans, we do have, pretty sophisticated tubing networks that will be able to get to the bottom of the flues and, spray the whole flue to be able that you minimize the amount of minerals that you could form, on the flues themselves. For the syrup pans, it becomes very cumbersome to be able to have the cleaning system inside, on it and everything, because basically, you do have to switch over some pans and there's more handling of those flat pans than there are of the flue pans. So you'll need to remove some things, the lids and everything. So, for cleaning pans, the flat pans, the good old fashioned racks with the pumps that circulate water in there that have covers and spray nozzle is, in my mind, the most convenient way to run if you don't want to handle all those syrup pans back and forth, so it's different operational beliefs.
Yeah, and what works for your system too, right?
And what works for your system, but definitely if you're a larger scale producer, definitely the flue pan washer will help you. Just because it's just more cumbersome to pick up, the steam hood, the flue pan, and everything that's required to get inside that pan to start spraying and everything. Those washing system with the little spray nozzles and the stainless steels inside. It's it really gets to the bottom of the flues quickly and in less time.
Yeah. Okay. And then another one here from Randall. If you calculate in depreciation and labor into your economic model, what number of taps do you need to break even when selling at bulk prices these days?
When we look at figures, and I talk to some of our experts, because I'm not the full expert. I'm as you could tell, I'm the face, but my experts, they say, around 2,500 taps is where you find a break even, to be able to say, hey, this is more of a business where we're definitely creating, some good sized revenues, and, we have expenses, we need expenses to be able to generate those revenues. So about 2,500 taps is where we find that people are starting to get the, hit that break even. Obviously it could be plus or minus, 200-300 taps. And it all depends, how the yields that your trees give you. And, somebody that's got a 2,500 tap bush, but that's never cleaned it in the past 10 years, the yield that you'll get from the trees is based on how you garden your bush and how you install and maintain your equipment. And it's all different. I've seen producers, we've walked in, into producers that had 2,500 taps, and we've been able to add several pounds per tap of production just by, sharing some good practices in their bush.
Yeah. Okay. And we had another one here. Can you put a cost on overproducing syrup by 1 or 2 bricks?
Well, in Quebec, we have a chart that says, that gives you basically the amount that they pay for your bulk syrup based on the bricks level. When you basically are between a certain bricks level, they'll give you a standard price, for your drum or your pound, of syrup. If your bricks is too high or below, then you get a reduction, it's a penalty that they call it. Outside of Quebec, it's more of a free market, but usually the people are giving you, price per pound. So obviously some folks will say, hey, I'm going to try to send a drum that's heavier than lighter. But, a lot of the logic, behind the economics of using a bricks equalizers is trying to attain that 66 bricks or 65.9 so that you could make more bulk, more quantity. So easily, some people that make 50 drums will make an extra drum using a bricks equalizer, because basically they're getting consistent measures inside of their drums. So there is some economics and numbers, but they relate to different regions and how you're allowed to sell your bulk syrup. So in Quebec, it's a particular way of calculating it. But what we find is that, even outside of Quebec, people that are using bricks equalizers are capable of making more drums at the correct bricks level instead of depending on the pounds per bricks that's inside the drum.
Yeah, I guess especially if you're being penalized for over bricks as well, right? That
Yes.
compounds it doubly. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. I think that's everything that's in the chat. Any other questions from anyone? Frank, you got something?
I was when you talk about the 1% bricks over, really to get that, what are you, 50, 100 drums to really make a difference?
Oh, it does. I could send John some figures, some calculators that we've got, but we do have a chart that gives and these charts were done, for more the Quebec producers, but you'll be able to understand the math behind it, because there is a significant amount that could be attained by having consistent syrup levels. And, it depends on your taste too. If you're a producer that likes to draw off at 67.5 because you've got that more robust and more of a taffy taste, we're all masters of our own kitchen. And, just like making wine, when I drink a Cabernet from Chile or I drink a Cabernet from Europe, I'm not expected to have the same taste because, they're not made by the same vineyards. And it's the same thing with maple syrup, but in order to attain that window and not go over and not lose any money, too many drums out there are not within the windows to optimize profitability.
That'd be great information. So if you could pass that on to John, that'd be fantastic. Because as like Vermont 66.9, so they're almost a full bricks over everybody else, but
Correct.
They seem to want to go for more quality, mouthfeel, sweetness.
That's correct, and that's their region, and that's what their appellations want them to be. Vermont maple syrup. That's the sort of flavor texture that they want to offer to consumers.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, Frank.
Well, if we don't have any more questions, thank you, Martin. Is there something that you would like to say on behalf of D&G, or have you sort of covered that in your presentation?
Well, I sort of covered that in my presentation, but I'm one thing I'm looking forward is getting back out there and meeting a lot of you. And I know that maple sugaring I said is addictive, but the main thing about maple sugaring is its people. And so I'm looking forward to being back out there, whether they're some different types of events that we've got or training sessions, and more importantly getting back to just regular life. And I hope that all of you are going to get out of this pandemic healthy and optimistic about the future.
Well, thank you for that, Martin. I always have to make a comment back to Frank. You may say Vermont is 66.9, but that's at 60 degrees, which relates down to 66.5, which is what Ontario tries to strive for, at least 66.5 to 67. So on behalf of OMSPA, thank you, Martin. Your you're always a wealth of knowledge, and it's lovely that you'll share it without putting a corporate brand on it all the time. But saying that, D&G has given a gift certificate, made it available to our members that are on the call today. And John, I gave you what the number was. So do you know who it is?
It's Joyce. That's all she's showing up as. And I just sent her a message. So she needs
okay, well then
let me
Joyce
know.
needs to contact you, because D&G will get the certificate to John, and then John can distribute it. Thank you again, Martin. It's always a pleasure. I've always enjoyed our chats wherever they've been, and hopefully they'll be in person very shortly, where we're in Niagara Falls or back in Syracuse.
person with a beer.
Yes. Well done, Martin. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all soon.
Looking forward to seeing you.
Just to remind
John,
everyone,
if you want to give us when our next one is, it's 3 o'clock, is it?
2:30.
2:30.
Steve Skinner from CDL on maple butter and confections.
And then 4 o'clock is Lapierre and with Steve on small ROs, and then 7 o'clock with Jules Potin. I know some people have still had some problems with the getting in with the passcode. All right. But I knew John sent out a new link before lunch, and that seems to have worked quite well.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Martin.